Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of August 7th to the 13th of 2023. All right, so this week we have, first of all, the sun is changing sign right at the beginning of the week, going from protective Cancer to more expressive Leo, where we've had the other fast movers of Mercury, Venus, and Mars. So really all the fast movers in this case, including the sun, are in expressive Leo, and so we can expect things to really continue over the next month plus around self-expression, cultivating the things and people close to our hearts, and getting into some of that, again, maybe playful, creative Leo kind of energy. Now, at the beginning of the week, we are in the third quarter moon, so it is a good week to challenge ourselves. Usually, this phase of the cycle, though, is much easier to work with since we've been in this lunar month for about 3 weeks now. And really, what's good to challenge ourselves to implement this week is any shifts of perspectives you gained last week. So about a week ago, we had that full moon. That's usually some illumination, some new perspectives that we can now really challenge ourselves to implement in the third quarter phase. In terms of the aspects, we have Venus retrograde, who's going to be squaring up to Uranus on Wednesday and going over the sun, marking the halfway point of the Venus retrograde time period, which will be on Sunday. So still a good time of reflecting on what we value, how we relate with others, but midweek, maybe finding a constructive way of having things like freedom and change in our life constructively with the square to Uranus. And then towards the end of the week with the conjunction with the sun, just maybe doing a bit of this status check. How has this past roughly month been in regards to us re-examining our values and how we're relating with others, and maybe gaining a new shift of perspective with that halfway point. All right, so let's go and take a look at this as well as some of the other aspects we have here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, August 7th. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology. For example, you might be wondering why I just said the sun is going from Cancer into Leo, and maybe you're expecting the sun to already be in Leo. So if you do notice the sign placements are different, this is because we are using the visible sky, which is very different from mainstream astrology. And if you are new to this channel, definitely check out that link down below for more information. All right, so really the only sign change we have is pretty much right at the beginning of the week. We have the sun going from protective Cancer, where we still have this energy because we are still part of the lunar month that started here around creating that safe and secure environment for ourselves and others, always remembering to check in with self-care and self-nurturance, and also to get more in touch with our caring and nurturing side as well in general. And that's still going to be the theme likely for the next week as we finish up this lunar month, but the focus really is shifting more and more on the expressive Leo side of things. And this is where we've already had Mercury, Mars, and Venus retrograde. And so now the sun joining up with these planets really adds to it. So over the next month plus, it's still really good for this self-expression. Leo's all about connecting more to our hearts and our creative side, and cultivating that sense of pride in terms of what we create and what we love and what we might consider our passions in life. So great to do the things we love, great to connect with those we love, get more into that expressive, playful, and creative side. And I think that's just a great way of working with really now all these fast movers in the constellation of Leo, and where we'll have the next lunar month, of course, in about a week. So in terms of the aspects, as you can see, quite medium in terms of the number of aspects. So let's go and break this down here one day at a time, starting first with Monday, August 7th. So on Monday, we are still coming off a bit of that square with Jupiter that we had last week. So I think by this point, though, I think it is going to be a much easier week to balance out any over and under extremes around indulgences, around possibilities, opportunities. It's been a really good week last week to really gain a new perspective on what's possible, but how to work on it constructively. And I think coming into this week, there is much more of that sort of, not really grounding, but in a sense grounding energy, because after the expansion of Jupiter from last week, relatively speaking, this week can be quite grounding. So I think it's great to see these potentials, opportunities, but use this week to really implement and move forward any of those, opportunities or new perspectives we gained last week. And again, during that full moon last week, which is around Tuesday of last week. And that's just a great way of working with the third quarter moon. We'll go into the exact third quarter on Tuesday. And that's where it's really, again, good to challenge ourselves to implement the last week's energy. So in terms of Monday and Tuesday, we will have the moon in Aries. So those 2 days are themes around cultivating more of that independence, assertiveness, and proactive energy. And I think that's great because, again, this lunar cycle has been helping us connect more to our softer side, our emotional side, our bodies, with Cancer. And so now in this more action-oriented phase of the lunar cycle, it's a great couple days for proactivity, taking some initiative, and again, even with the moon over Jupiter, getting some of those possibilities and potentials and moving them forward there. So once we do get to the Wednesday time period, we'll come up to the 2 main aspects we have this week, along with the one on Sunday, which we'll talk about. But here on Wednesday, Venus squaring up to Uranus is this really retrograde of Venus we've been having, which has been really good to reflect on, what our values are in life, and also how we're relating with others in our relationships and stuff. So still good to be flexible with that, of course, with the Venus retrograde, but especially when we have a square to Uranus during the retrograde, because Uranus is already very much about experimentation and trying new and different things. And so in the square, it might be a bit challenging in the sense that it might go to over and under extremes. There might be a part of us that really wants to break free this week around Wednesday, maybe make some sudden changes in terms of our enjoyments and our relationships, maybe want a lot of that sense of freedom and wanting to listen to that excitement, which is great to do. But again, with squares, we want to make sure that's done constructively. And so it's a good time to see how can we healthfully implement freedom, change, healthfully challenging the status quo, healthfully challenging our own status quo through getting outside of our comfort zone in a way that is constructive, I think is a great way of working with this. And this is, again, a big theme of the retrograde. We'll have the next contact with this after Venus goes direct. So even throughout the rest of the week and the upcoming weeks, just still maintaining that flexibility, that experimentation in terms of our values and enjoyments and our relationships. Now, along with this, it's nice to see Mercury in trine to Jupiter. So we have the left brain Mercury, which is the more practical side of our minds, in good harmony with Jupiter, the right brain, which is our more abstract side of our minds. So we have a good harmony here, I think, midweek to see the bigger picture. Again, this is much easier to do coming out of last week. And so things like, again, opportunities, possibilities, or just seeing things like the meaning of life and philosophical and spiritual and theoretical stuff could come across quite naturally. And we might even find that our communications are also a bit supportive here and maybe a bit open-minded, and again, good to maybe discuss these higher perspectives on life and such. All right, so that's midweek. By this midweek Wednesday, we will have the moon start to go into Taurus, which is the bulk of the week, all the way from Wednesday through Friday. We'll have the moon in grounded Taurus. And so it is a good week for taking things slowly and steadily, and one step at a time before taking the next step. Taurus is always a good reminder, especially with the moon here, to connect more with our grounded side in terms of our strength and our resourcefulness and our, taking things steadily and in that strong and grounded sort of way. And always good to enjoy the external enjoyments as well, maybe, some nature, maybe a good meal, maybe some luxuries or relaxation. Good to connect to our inner and outer resources with the moon in Taurus this middle part of the week. And then once we do get to the weekend on Saturday, the moon will shift into Gemini. And then we are starting to, then by this point, really start to close out the lunar cycle. We'll have that new moon, which will be around the 15th, 16th, mostly the 16th of next week. And so as we approach next week, good to, finalize things for this lunar month. And I think it's a good weekend to do so. But particularly with Gemini, I think it's great weekend here to be curious, interested, both personally through maybe picking up that book, doing some learning, again, cultivating our minds and our knowledge, but even externally as well, maybe through communication, exchanging with others, connecting with our peers or siblings. These things can be great with the moon in Gemini as well. So it's all about synthesizing information and being curious and interested in general. But over the weekend, we do have that halfway point with the Venus retrograde going over the sun. Now, this does tend to make the Venus energies a bit more unconscious, as we can't see Venus in the sky being engulfed by the sun in this case. And so it is good to bring extra attention to, again, this whole idea of learning about our values and how we're relating with others. But here there could be some insights, and usually not in the more cerebral type of insights, usually more in the spiritual or emotional ones. And so it's a good time to kind of feel and check in with, again, our values and, just values in general, as that is the personal side of Venus, and reflect, and kind of go within and not so much reflect mentally, but sort of spiritually, feel what comes up. And through that, there can be new perspective shifts, again, marking the halfway point of the retrograde. And it might be a shift of perspective about what we value, what we really enjoy in life, who we value, who we really enjoy in life, and what we enjoy and value in relationships as well. So good time to bring that extra attention to those sides of things, to what we're enjoying, to how we're relating with others, just to help balance out any automatic, unconscious, or what's called combust sort of energy here with the sun dwarfing Venus, drowning out Venus. So extra conscious attention can help balance that out, but that can also help us, again, facilitate what's likely going to be a new shift of perspective regarding those values and our relationships, more than likely. So great to do that over the weekend. And then as we go into next week, probably implementing these new, again, spiritual or internal perspectives that we might gain from Sunday. The weekend also has some minor aspects with Chiron. Both the sun and Venus will be trining Chiron. So it's nice to know that this conjunction may have a healing benefit to it, and we might feel a bit healed and rejuvenated as a result. And anytime there's a trine to Chiron, it is always good to maybe set some intentions for healing as well, if that's something that you'd like to do over the weekend there. All right, so that is the week in a nutshell. Most important thing is the sun now entering Leo, really adding to the fiery and expressive qualities of Leo, and gearing up for the new lunar cycle we'll have here, which will be next week. So this week, early in the week, I think taking that more proactive stance in terms of implementing perspectives from last week, and then towards the end of the week, sort of starting to close things out, starting to finalize to create space for those new beginnings. We have some aspects which can be utilized. Venus squaring Uranus. How can we see the value of change and freedom and unorthodoxy and work with it constructively and intentionally? It's nice to see Mercury in good harmony to Jupiter, giving us a new perspective, higher perspective on life and things with that harmony there. And then over the weekend, maybe some shifts of internal perspective, spiritual perspective on what is being reworked and reevaluated when it comes to our values and relating with others. All right, so everyone, have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you haven't yet got your True Sidereal report, those are released. You can check that out down below. But it is a full report of your True Sidereal birth chart, going over all of the placements, all of the aspects, basically the whole chart in a printed form. So do check that out if you haven't gotten yours yet. But have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.